So as the seasons change here in the Pacific Northwest, we're kind of going into one of my favorite seasons, hunting season, which means there's going to be more people out in the woods. You might even be out in the woods, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean it's going to be safe. So in today's survival guide, we're going to be talking about don't get lost. So one of the key factors for not getting lost is generalized preparation. So knowing where you are, where you're going, and the land that you're in. So especially for hunting season, with some of the circumstances of wildfires and things like that, it might be forcing you to move into areas to hunt that you've never been before. So finding maps, you can even print out topo maps, just like these. Online, you can do Google Earth and just do the topographical button and figure out kind of centrally where you're located in where you're going to be hunting. Finding access roads, things like that, notifying landmarks that you know and you see, especially if it's new terrain. If it's not new terrain, you still can get lost. Surprises happen all the time. You could slip and fall. You could get knocked out by a falling tree branch, something like that. You wake up and it's nighttime. You may know the woods really, really well, but I guarantee you, you don't know them that well to be out there at night with no help, no vision. So knowing where you are, knowing how to signal for help, and just being prepared going in are kind of some big points that we're going to be talking about today. So the first thing is getting a map of your location. So like I said, you can get topo maps, you can use Google Earth, or you can just, depending on the location that you're in, you could probably go by your local ranger station and find maps of the areas that will at least give you landmarks on them. And now I put them in a plastic baggie so that you can carry it on you. It's going to be waterproof, it's going to be protected so that you don't have issues with losing your navigation. But also coupled with the map is getting a compass. So this is a directional compass. So it has the eye lens and your sight mark, which is right down there in the middle. So with these compasses, they always point north, or magnetic north rather. Now around here in the Pacific Northwest, we don't have a whole lot of issue with iron deposits or weird magnetic fields, so we do generally get a very consistent magnetic north. Now if you are somewhere in the Rockies, or if you're in the Appalachian Mountains or something like that, where there is a lot more magnetic interference, a compass is going to be harder to use. Now the reason why you carry something that's analog is because batteries die, screens get cracked. So even if you could have the most fancy GPS ever, but a compass is never really going to fail you unless you do have some of those things that I was talking about, where you're having either large iron deposits which will pull magnetic fields, or you just have issues with knowing how to use a compass. Those are two easy things that you can use to prepare and to survive if you do find yourself lost. The other things that you can do is, especially when you're out, even if you're just hiking or something like that, there are ways to figure out how much daylight you have left, because I know that trying to set up shelter or set up camp in the dark is no fun. So there are a couple ways that you can do this, especially here in the Pacific Northwest. We're having a lot of fires, so sun visibility is a little bit low right now, where you're going to have issues finding the sun because of all the wildfires. It's even slightly misting right now, so we do have a little bit of that fog and mist obscuring the sky. But if you can get a good sight on the sun and the horizon, all you have to do is stretch your arm straight out, put your index finger below the sun, and every finger width between the sun and the horizon is generally about 15 minutes. So if you've got 4 fingers between the horizon and the sun, you have about an hour. Now you can keep extrapolating that out, where you can go here, put another 4 here, and so on and so forth to kind of gauge how many hours or minutes you have left of daylight. Now, that being said, I use this a lot more for hiking than I do anything else. For all of you, big, strong, seasoned explorers out there that, oh, I don't need to go with anybody, I'm going to solo everything. Don't get complacent. As much as I want to say that I'm a seasoned woodsman and all that stuff, if I'm going out alone, I have people that know where I am, know where I should be, have windows of time of when I should be able to check in. If I say that I'm going to be gone for 6 hours, they know that if it's been 7.5, that they need to come and start looking for me. At that point, if you miss your operating window, you should have someone that's coming to look for you, and those are things that you need to set in place beforehand. So moving into just trying not to get lost. If you do find yourself where you get disoriented or anything like that, remember back to your map, find those landmarks that you keyed on there, or find those high points that you can see if you have a topographical map. So remember their bearing, remember their heading. You don't have to remember the exact latitude and longitude, but remember, like, alright, so from the trailhead to this mountainside was, say north by northwest. And I've traveled relatively, straight north. So I know if I turn an 1/8 turn to the left, that's north by northwest, and I should be able to at least head to that point, or I should at least be able to see it. If it's back behind me, you know that you've gone a lot farther north than you were expecting, so now you can at least backtrack to a point that you recognize.
I saw that one coming from a long ways away.
So firing 3 shots in rapid succession is the kind of universal sign for distress or being lost, especially out in the woods. Just because it's very uncommon, at least during hunting season, to hear shots in super rapid succession, just because most people do not hunt with semi-automatic rifles. They're usually more precise shots, so you're not scaring off all the game in the area, you're just taking down what you're attempting to neutralize. So with that, whether it's a sidearm, whether it's your rifle, just be mindful of that as well, and it needs to be into the air. Even shooting it into a tree, you don't know what is necessarily beyond that tree. You don't necessarily know how close you are to other hunters. So shooting it up into the air rather than straight, into a berm or things like that. Yes, there is an issue with the bullet coming down at some point, but would you rather it come down at terminal velocity, which is 120 miles per hour, or would you rather it hit someone at 3,000 feet per second, leaving the barrel? That's kind of a no-brainer there. So if you do get lost, trying to find some sort of water. I mean, obviously in the Northwest we don't have an issue with finding water. There are little streams, ponds, anything like that. If there is an outlet of flowing water, you can follow that downstream, and almost all water, moving water, I should say, flowing water leads to civilization. So even if you are 50 miles out in the boonies and you are able to follow a river, follow a stream, follow a creek, if it makes it all those 50 miles, you'll be able to find civilization at some point. Civilization is located around water 95% of the time. So using that to your advantage, and using some of those natural cues, like I said, natural landmarks, hills, rock formations, specific trees. If there's a tree that's had its top chopped off and you can see it visibly from a long ways away, that is a landmark because it stands out. And then also using streams, and then having your maps, having your compass. All those things kind of keep you in a much more safe place to get to the point of not being lost, or being lost for a very short period of time and being able to save yourself. So if you find yourself lost more than just lost for a moment, you actually kind of move into the content of what would be another video, which would be to be finding rescue, which we'll talk about at some point, obviously in the context of another video. But as far as trying not to get lost or not getting lost, period, remember preparation, so knowing your maps, having your compass, having the right tools, and the knowledge of your area. And then while you are out there, making note of those landmarks as well. Especially if you know distances, that actually helps you out quite a bit. And there are some generalized ways that you can gauge distance, or at least keep track of your distance. So at least on my pack, especially if I'm hunting or if I'm hiking, most of mine do have molly web on them, so you can attach and Velcro all sorts of fancy stuff to it. So what you can do is you can actually make a ring system, which basically you could just take a stick, put rings on it, even if it's just like a key ring or something like that, and some sort of stop, whether you just have a loop of rope over the top. But basically what you can do is, so with that system, which would be, it's good to keep it up so it doesn't get snagged or changed by other things if you're going through the brush or anything like that. But what you can do is, coupled with that, that's going to be your large gauge tracker. So that's going to be like your miles or kilometers. So what you can do to find your miles or kilometers is, the easiest way is kilometers, because tracking meters over time, you know that if you walk 1,000 meters, that's 1 kilometer. And so a meter is just over 3 feet for all of you that don't know. So a meter, in most regards, is synonymous with a yard, but a meter is actually a little bit longer. So for me, I played football, so gauging yardage is actually really easy for me. So I can actually look out and see, like, say, oh yeah, that's roughly 35 yards. Things like that. So what you can do, just to keep it simple, is, if you need to for pacing, is to literally just 1 foot in front of the other, walk out 30 yards, which would be, or walk out 10 yards, which would be 30 feet. Which for the average male and even the average female, about foot to foot, with boots on, with shoes on, you're going to be pretty close to a foot per foot. So with that, you gauge your 10-yard distance, and now every time that you move your 10-yard distance, you have little rocks that you keep in your pockets. So basically, say you have 10 rocks, so 10 rocks times 10 meters, that makes 100 meters, and there's 100 or 10 meters or 10 100-meter sections in a kilometer. So what you do is, every 10 meters you take a rock out of one pocket, put it in the other, and then once you get done with all 10 rocks out of one pocket into the other, you know that you've gone 100 meters, and then you do it back. So now you're just counting back and forth to where it's, 10 from this side to this side, that's 10, 10 from this side to this side, that's 20, and so on and so forth. And then you can keep track. If you want to do hundreds on your larger scale, you can, or if you want to do kilometers, so that you don't have to count that to like 100. You don't have to swap it 100 times. So basically, once you get to 100 meters, move a ring up above your stop point. And then you just start over and keep doing it so that you can track your distance. Especially if you know that going from point A to point B is, X amount of mileage, X amount of kilometers. That allows you to keep track of your distance traveled. And then obviously, lastly, just like most of our videos, our goal is to get home safely. So using these tips, using these tricks in this survival guide should make it so that you can effectively navigate and keep yourself from getting lost, whether you're just out hiking for the day or whether you're out hunting. But it should be able to make it so that we can have our end goal be getting home safely. And of course, if you guys like this video, please like, share, subscribe, do all those things for us, just because they help us grow and help us kind of spread the message of what we're trying to do here. Obviously, our goal is to positively encourage and provide you guys with life skills that you can use on an everyday basis. But we also have our merch, which can directly support us as well. So if you like these shirts, you can check out the merch store in the description down below. We also have social media. So we have Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok. We also now have a Twitter. So all of those things, follow us. Those will be in the description down below. If you are looking for anything tactical or firearms related, be sure to check out 3 Aces LLC. They are a company located in Spokane, Washington. They have a Facebook page and a storefront. So if you are located around the Spokane area, or you don't mind traveling over there, you can find their address, get in touch with them on Facebook, and that link will also be in the description down below. So, as usual, guys, be sure to respect, encourage, teach, and protect. So, stuff, things, all that jazz.